Another common element that you may want to incorporate into your projects is a Google map. And again, this follows the same technique that we've been using in the last set of exercises. If we want the map to work responsively, then we need to use the same intrinsic ratio technique when we set the padding on the bottom for the wrapper that goes around the iframe. And in order to get the number that we'll use on the padding bottom, we'll just divide the height by the width, and that will give us the aspect ratio that we need. So I have a page set up for us to work on. Here's the page where we're going to add a map right down here. And I've gone ahead and brought up the location that I want to add, which is La Jolla Cove. So I want to be able to embed this map onto my page. I'm going to click the little embed link icon right here, and this will provide me with the iframe code that I need. So I'm just going to select all of this code and copy it. And then we'll go into our HTML. So this is the HTML for this particular page. Same thing that we were using, so I'm not going to go through it. I'm going to go down into the code where I want the map to appear and paste in the iframe code. And you can see that the iframe code here is somewhat significant. If we save and check it in the browser, it's going to generate this map that we can then use in our site, and we could navigate around, and if you click view larger map, it'll take you to a larger map, and you can customize some of these things if you want, but essentially this is how you could easily add a map. So what I'll do next is I will make this so that it functions responsively. Currently the map is not responsive, and you can see when I resize the page, the map bleeds off and I get some horizontal scrolling. I would prefer if the map filled the area no matter what size my browser window becomes. So let's jump into our code, and we need to add a wrapper div around our iframe code. In addition to the iframe code, you can see that there's some other code right here that links to Google Maps. That's the view larger map. If I don't want that to display, I can just delete that and just have the iframe code. So if we just quickly look before we make this responsive, you can see that I no longer have that link for view larger, and that's just up to you. What do you want to display there? So you can kind of control that by getting rid of that or keeping it on. Now, if you look in the iframe code real quickly, you can see that I have a width and a height value that's specified. So Google provided me with this information. If for some reason you wanted your map to display at a different size, then you could just change this information. We really don't care what the information is because we just want it to work responsively. So we're just going to use this information to give us our aspect ratio. But you certainly could change this. I mean, if I wanted the map to display at 625 by 350, I could plug that in, and now if I refresh, you can see that the map displays at a different aspect ratio. So Google will provide you with a certain number in there, but whatever size you want your map to display at, you would just plug that information in there. So you can change that if you need to. We'll just go ahead and use the 625 by 350. Alright, now that we have our HTML all set, let's add our CSS. I'll go up to the comments that I've already created, and I will create the selector for my div that wraps around the map. It's called map wrapper. We're going to use a position of relative like we have in the past. Then we're going to go ahead and set our padding on the bottom. And as I mentioned, we are going to be dividing the height of our map into the width. So you might find it helpful to make a comment so that you remember what you're doing. The height of our map is 350. If we divide that by 625, that's going to give us the resulting value of 0.56, which will convert into a percentage. So 56% is what we're going to be using for the padding on the bottom. And because the padding on the bottom is going to be creating the height, we'll actually set the height to 0, and our overflow will be set to hidden. Next, we'll create the code that we need for the iframe. And we're going to use the exact same code that we used on the video. So position of absolute, top and left of 0, and then we'll set the width and the height to 100%. Let's save our page and let's go look at it in the browser. If I refresh, you can see that now the map fits within the area that I've defined, and if I resize my page, the map is going to scale up or down. Well, I've zoomed way out on my map, but needless to say, if I scale my page up and down, the map now is going to scale in a responsive way. So you can see how by default embedded content kind of has a habit of breaking responsive layouts. Usually that's because it's contained within an iframe that has a fixed width assigned to it, and you can see how in many cases if we just add a single containing wrapper and some minimal CSS, then we can ensure that the embedded content that's contained within an iframe is going to resize with the browser's window.